Hi, and welcome to the Adelaide Horror Podcast. This is your host, Zombie Joe, and today's Zombie Bite episode, I'm interviewing Laelia Starla and her upcoming book, Winter's Maiden 1, that is to be launching on May the 22nd. So that's pretty exciting. And as we can see here, that's the book, and in the background, you can see some of the details there. So, Laelia, when did you start writing and your first novel?
Okay, so, well, I did lots of creative writing all through my childhood, but I really only got serious about it 3 years ago when I started writing my debut novel.
Nice.
It's actually a contemporary romance.
Nice.
Bit different to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I haven't read contemporary romance, so I've got to admit that, but that's cool.
The idea came to me in a series of dreams whilst I was actually studying my second degree. So sat down and wrote it during the winter break.
Yep.
And then I was like, well, I've actually got something there. I'm going to send it to my friend to edit and see what he thinks. And next thing I know, I'm publishing a book.
Funny you say that, because some other authors have actually said that a lot of their ideas and stuff come from that subconscious place where they'll dream up some stuff and then wake up and go, oh my god, I've got to write that down. Yeah. And they write it down. It's one of their best-selling novels. Comes into them as a dreamscape, or if it's Stephen King, it comes to you in a cocaine-fueled frenzy, but whatever. But probably not in your case, but whatever. So no, that's cool.
I certainly do a lot of writing, like in my head when I'm either trying to sleep or asleep.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
It does certainly fuel my creative spark. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So what's your schedule like when you begin to write the story? You sit down from draft to finished product. What's kind of your timeline realistically like that you're looking
at? It does vary with each book that I write, but on average, say about a couple of months for the first draft. Then I put it aside. Don't look at it for several months because when I go back to self-edit, I want to be approaching it from a bit more of a critical perspective. I don't want to be still in love with my baby, so to speak.
Wow. So, now that's actually pretty. Wow. That's an interesting kind of way of doing it. Yeah. That's actually probably a really good idea. Because you can go at it way harder.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when I go back, I do several stages of rewriting and self-editing.
Yeah.
I've got a checklist I use to go through and do like word searches for all my filler words that I just want to delete that I don't need. Yeah. Apparently I use that too much.
Yeah.
So that takes me another couple of months. Yeah. And then I'll send that to my editor.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple of months back and forth going through that process. And then I'll send it to my beta readers.
Right.
So they are volunteers who will read my books. You know, they get advance copies of it to read through and give me feedback. Some of them are other authors who are great at proofreading. Others are just regular readers who will give me ideas of how I've maybe made a character less plausible than I could, picking out plot holes, that sort of thing.
Wow, that's really handy. Because when the main mistake for me when I'm writing is it's only just me. Yeah. So when I reread something, I'll go, no, I don't like it, and I could literally be on a chapter for like months because I keep pulling myself up and I don't advance forward. So that was always a mistake that I did. So the beta readers, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, and there are Facebook groups where I find these people, and I've also got a few regulars who are loyal readers of mine. Yeah. And so generally it goes through the beta process for about 3 to 4 months.
Yep.
And then after that, I'll do another final proofread. And my husband also helps with that. Yep. And we go through the process of picking out quotes that I'm going to be using in my marketing material during that stage. And that's another month or 2. And from then, enter the publication process. Wow. And that's like another 1 to 2 months of just going through and actually doing the formatting of the manuscripts. Yeah. So, because I self-publish, I do all my own formatting I use Amazon software to actually set it up specifically for Kindle. I also use another software program to create the EPUB files for other e-readers. And then I use my word processing software to create the manuscript for the paperbacks.
There you go.
And that's the most time consuming, is actually getting it right to send to a printer. So the people at Ingram Spark are absolute champs at helping me get that right too. So cool, you can pay typesetters to do this work for you, but you know, that's more money that isn't going to be in the bank account at the end of the day. So I do as much for myself as I can.
No, that's pretty good, being savvy like that. Also, too, if someone's watching and is interested in getting themselves published, or how they go about doing that information's probably pretty handy to have. So no, that's cool.
I wouldn't recommend doing too much of the typesetting yourself if you're not savvy with word processing software, because you'll be pulling your hair out even more than I was. And I'm like a pretty good Microsoft Word expert. So.
Cool. There you go. So when you sat down and you started to write Winter's Maiden, how did Delano come up? Like, is it someone you know, or is it just kind of you imagined her? Or like, some people say that, you know, when you're asleep and you've got all these people in your dreams, it's actually you've kind of crossed over and they're actually dead people, and I didn't want to fucking hear that, like, because I've woken up a few times from dreams. I'm at the show and there's people everywhere, and I've just woken up going, are you serious? Like, how many freaking dead people have I just surrounded myself with? Like, so yeah, how does that come about?
Okay, so I approached this whole series from a fairly conceptual perspective. So I just finished writing my second romance novel, and I'm like, you know what, I love paranormal romance and the occult and urban fantasy. I want to have a go at writing that stuff myself, you know, because why not? So I sort of started brainstorming, I guess is the word you could use, trying to think what would make for an interesting magical realism story. That's the new catchphrase that's replaced urban fantasy, by the way.
Well, there you go.
For the viewers at home. So sort of explored various ideas for how I could approach this genre. And as soon as the idea of having mythology and actual ancient pagan cultures brought into it, I'm like, that's it. That's the concept I'm going with. From there, I started to think about the sort of characters that you might see in this setting. And I knew I wanted to set it locally. So most of the story takes place on the Fleurieu Peninsula in a mystical town.
Nice.
And not too far from Victor Harbour. But sort of thought
mythical Port Elliot. Pretty much. So kick-ass bakery.
Oh, and the best coffee shop anywhere in the state.
Still keep,
That's the beauty of making up these places yourself. You can have all of your fantasies in one place. So I sort of thought about the sort of characters that I would want to see in that setting that would fit in my world. And I started playing around with Myers-Briggs personality profiling, which is a tool I use all the time now when I'm creating characters. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, Joe, but it's a personality test you can take online.
Oh, okay.
So I put myself in the shoes of these characters in my book. And answer these questions as though I'm them.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how I find, okay, well, Alana, she's very much the entertainer type. So, she's an extrovert. And yeah, so she really is just purely a figment of my imagination.
Yeah.
Although, being the protagonist of the story, I guess she does also reflect sort of aspects of my own personality to some extent as well.
Yeah. Because that's what I was kind of thinking, like, you know, being the main character, you kind of almost semi-set yourself as that person, and then the rest of the characters kind of follow from people that you do know or that you've seen on TV or something like that. You kind of visually get that, and then you just build your character from that. And I kind of thought, I wonder if that was the same kind of the way you went about building your characters up.
I try not to base too many of my characters on people I know. I don't want to, insult any of my friends.
Yeah, what? And you killed me off, like,
I have in the past done a competition for my readers to get their name into my book, but when I do that, I'm putting them as sideline characters, so I'm not going to be harming in any way because I don't want to upset them. But I try to make these characters real as much as possible without being based on actual people I know. So it is a bit of a challenge, but that's why I use character sheets. So for anyone who's familiar with the idea of tabletop role-playing, because that's something I do myself, like Dungeons and Dragons, World of Darkness, that sort of thing, you get your character sheets in those games, or even video game-based RPGs, like Skyrim. You'll be building a character through that. So it's a similar process, but my character sheets sort of look more into what motivates these people as well.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And I get little character portraits.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, how many books have you written collectively, including now Winter's Maiden, like all collectively since you've started writing professionally?
All right. So, I've actually drafted about 7 books so far.
Yep.
2 of them I've published.
Yep.
This is my 3rd that's coming out later this month.
Yep.
Okay. Then the others are in various stages of drafting in preparation for publication. So I have done most of the work on the sequel to this book. So that's going through its final editing now.
Yep.
And I've got another contemporary romance that's also a bit of an erotic thriller coming out in August this year, which I'm also now polishing as well. That's in its actual final stage of polishing.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah,
because you're kind of dabbling between, you've got contemporary romance, paranormal romance. This is paranormal romance.
Yeah.
That's why it's on the show.
Yeah. Because it's paranormal. Yeah.
So,
there's monsters.
Yeah. That's good. And that got my attention because I'm like, I can tolerate the romance, but there's monsters. So I'm like, all right. So that's why I could write Pride and Prejudice and zombies. That's the only reason why I ended up reading Pride and Prejudice. And I was like, thank God for the zombies. That's good. When you sit down to write this book, and you've got to create the world, what kind of level of world building is involved in that? So what helps you in doing that world building?
Okay, so for this particular series, there was a lot of research that went into it and world building because I had to create the magical lore and keep it consistent through the series. I've got 8 books in total planned for this series. 9 if you count the prequel novella I'm also thinking about. So I want to make sure that the way magic works is consistent, that the abilities of the different supernatural creatures is also consistent all through the series. And I wanted origin stories for them as well. So I went and created a separate book just on the lore for this. It's not anything I intend to publish. Some of it, I've blatantly plagiarized from all over the internet, but it's my source document that I refer to. For example, I've got a page just on auras because aura reading is a big part of my setting as well. So it's quite involved, and done a lot of research into different pagan cultures, and all the different gods that people used to worship all around the world. And I've plugged that in there as well. So that was fairly intense, and that I actually did more of that in the like sort of pre-conceptual, early conceptual stage, even before I sat down to create the characters. So
I was going to say that would be in itself months of just doing that before the even story happened. Like, so that's
absolutely
quite involved. And so collectively, how long do you reckon it took to come up with the law book that you follow? Like,
Oh, honestly, it's pretty hard one to answer because it would have been months in the making just before I even sat down to the writing, but it's been evolving since. I wrote the first 3 books of this series before I even thought about letting the public, beta readers, editor, anyone see it, because I wanted to make sure that I had my lore the way I wanted it, and it was evolving through those first 3 books quite fluidly. And I'd go back and decide, nah, I don't like what I've done with the goblins here. I've decided I'm going to change them a bit, and so
I was going to say there'll be a lot of chopping and changing, and what initially starts off as really good. Do you find at that point that then creates kind of like a writer's block, like where you're at that point where you're going, nah, I've got to walk away for a few days or something because I'm not getting anywhere with this? Like, do you find that?
Not so much, no. For me, writer's block tends to come more from if I, get negative feedback from someone, and it might not even be about this stuff I'm writing. If I just get in a bad mood, or if there is something outside of writing puts me in a bad mood, that will sometimes block my creative process. And that's where I just need to move away from the writing. And I will immerse myself in some other story-based thing. I might sit down and play an RPG on the Xbox, or I might go and binge watch something on Netflix. So
that's it. And then something following a similar thing to what you're writing, and then that kind of gets you back in the mood again.
That's right.
No, it's similar to what I do, and it's a good idea, and it is true. An outside influence when you're trying to create something can really stunt what you're doing and just zap all your energy, and then the last thing you want to do is sit in front of a laptop and create something, because a lot of you goes into something like that. So
that's right.
What would be your highlight for writing Winners Maiden? Like, what's you kind of like the best bit? Like, you just kind of like, this is I'm on the winner. Like,
I definitely knew I was onto something when the characters are actually coming to life in my head and taking over the story. I wasn't in control of it anymore at that point. So Alana's definitely got a mind of her own. As do the 3 main male characters in this book as well. Because she's got a bit of a love square, not triangle, because there's 3 love interests, you see. I'm calling it a love square. But try not to spoil too much either. But things will definitely change in that respect in the future books. But so there is alternating perspectives in this book, and those other characters were driving the story a bit at times too. And cool. I love that. Absolutely love it.
Because it's a good high when you know you're kind of onto it, and it's going well. Cool.
Could be quite funny when you start having conversations with characters in your head too. Swear I'm not schizophrenic.
Dialogue is really interesting because you've got to kind of talk as if they're going to be talking, or what they would say. And sometimes I find it hard, like the dialogue. Like I'm thinking, or sometimes the dialogue it's just me saying it, like for 4 people, like how they would. So they all sound like me pretty much, which is a bit weird.
That can be a challenge with writing, because it is important to distinguish between the different characters. You want them to sort of have their own unique voices, so that they come across as real to other readers. There you
go. It's a handy Very talented in order to do that. So yeah,
Myers-Briggs personality profiling. Try it.
I'll give it a crack, and probably horrifying, but like, yeah.
Yeah, but not just for yourself. Yeah, for your characters. You know, like that. That's how you can find how distinct characters. Yeah. Is go through that process with different characters in mind. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bit weird. Like I'll start writing some characters, and like I've visually got their face like in my mind, and it's no one I've met. Like it's just really bizarre. Like it's not like he looks like the guy from Home and Away, or he looks like the guy from Buffy, or they look like the person from the current horror film or whatever. Yeah. These are just dead set like different faces. I don't know where they come from. Yeah. And then so that I've kind of sometimes even Google, if you just Google like female face or male face, it comes up with everything. You go, okay, I like that person. So you start basing it on something like that. So every writer's got their own kind of way of like creating a character, and that's half the fun. Like,
it is.
You can really start from the ground up and kind of work on someone. So
because I definitely like to know my characters well before I start writing them into the plot. Yeah. Yeah. So characters, it goes concept, characters, then plot.
And you draw them like you've got like a little storyboard kind of thing where you say they wear this or they wear that. Or
so I have. Yeah. I love using tables in Microsoft Word. Yeah. Just saying. Yeah. So I've got like a table in Word. Yeah. I've got a page just for Alana. Yeah. It's got what she looks like physically, how she behaves, her motivations, her insecurities, her background information, all of that, plus a character portrait, which I was originally sourcing them just through Google image search, but I've sort of come to realise, if I want to be using images in my marketing material, then I need to be using stock images that I've got licensed to use. So now I tend to go through a couple of my image search providers that I've got there, so I can actually have a portrait that I can use later. So cool. But it's a bit painstaking sometimes trying to find just the right picture that matches how I visualize that character in my head. Yeah,
that's right. So with your fan base now that you've kind of gathered online, do they get back in contact with you? Like how does that work, and is it being negative or positive? Like what's kind of been the vibe around the book from your fans?
So most of my fan base interact through my social media platforms, through engagement. So I've got a Facebook group where I try to have daily interactions on there. It's always a great spot for people to engage with what I put up, but also if they want to ask me questions about books, that it's open. I don't get a lot of questions yet, but I do like to do a Q&A session with each book launch party. So I've got an actual week-long virtual party coming up, starting on the 17th of May, which is going to run in that book, that particular Facebook group. I've got 7 guest authors who are going to be taking over my group during that week.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And then I'm going to be running some games and stuff on the Saturday morning, Australian time. So it'll be more like Friday night in the Northern Hemisphere. But so I'll be running a Q&A session then on the Sunday morning after some people have had a chance to buy and read the book. Oh, awesome. So and I also have a newsletter. So there are times when I'll get my newsletter subscribers replying to my emails as well. And and other than that, most of the feedback comes through reviews. So I'm on Goodreads and BookBub. Get reviews through there as well as Amazon.
How do you feel with the reviews that come in? Is that does that affect, say, like when you're sitting down or you've got another book on the go, you've got some feedback from a past book, does it kind of affect the new book that you're writing, or do you kind of just go, nah, that's separate, that person didn't like that book, doesn't mean that they're not going to like this one, or does it kind of sometimes affect you in how you're writing your new book now?
It can. I am a bit sensitive in that regard.
Yeah.
I don't tend to get the negative feedback doesn't come through on reviews. Like most of the reviews I've seen have all been positive.
Yeah, that's good.
But it's more, through beta readers or Argh readers. So Argh readers, advanced review copy readers. So I'll give out free copies in exchange for an honest review.
Yeah.
Some people might come back and say, oh, I can't finish this book, it's not to my taste. Which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But there are times when I just think, but I mean, if they're not into romance novels, it's probably that's not what they're into. Out of your range, I would lean straight away to this one because it's got that paranormal romance on it. Yeah.
And so that would kind of get my interest going. Okay, cool. Like I've got it in that sense.
But I do need to sort of step back sometimes and think, okay, no, that's not a reflection on me or my writing. It's just that person's taste. And I've got a really fantastic beta reader who's another author. She's given me some amazing involved feedback in a few of my manuscripts now. She came from, like, her first exposure to me was this erotic thriller that I've got coming out in August. Alright, and then she comes and she reads this one and she's like, there's all the steamy stuff. This is quite tame compared to what that other book's like.
Where's the 50 Shades? I want the 50 Shades. This is like 43 Shades. Like, what's going on?
I can't please everyone. I've got to realise that because, some people like fade to black is the industry term. Okay. Other people want all the juicy details.
I'm learning all these terms. I'm like, fade to black. Okay, it's not a Metallica album, but don't give me
So this book it's even though it's more novel length, like full novel length, the themes in it are more young adult. Sort of verging on new adult.
Okay.
Because I do keep it relatively tame, but the series heats up as it goes on.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Alana is going to grow and progress through her life stages. So, she starts out in year 11, high school, right? The next book, she's going to be 21.
So we follow her journey as she gets up. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, give you a little insight into something here, actually.
How about it?
I originally planned a trilogy.
Right.
Alright?
Yeah.
It was going to be Winter's Maiden, Winter's Mother, Winter's Crone. And then I'm like, I've got too much just for 3 books. Yeah. So I've sort of split each of those into 2 books each. Okay. So that's why it's Winter's Maiden 1, then Winter's Maiden 2. Then Winter's Mother 1 and 2 is going to be essentially 1 book split in 2. So that it's not like 180 pages. And there will be a cliffhanger at the end of
You're pulling
the
first
book.
book. You're pulling a throne.
Yes, but she's gonna. It's probably not spoiling too much to say she's gonna be a mother in that one. It's in the title. And then eventually we'll go through the crone stage where she becomes all powerful and wise. So that's a bit behind the title as well there. So things will heat up, definitely. But I guess it's important for readers to realise that I like to have my focus in different places, in different books as well.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent. You're pulling the thrones on that one. Everyone's going to be finishing the book going, oh my god, I'm going to wait for next year. Like everyone's going to be freaking out.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a hook at the end of this one, but it's not a cliffhanger.
Awesome.
But there is definitely going to be a cliffhanger at the end of book 3. Which isn't the 3rd book in the series either, because I've got a 2.5. So between between Maiden 2 and Mother 1, there's going to be a spin-off, which is 2.5. And then there'll be another spin-off between Mother 2 and Crone 1, which will be 4.5.
You do realise when I finish this, and you haven't done Winter Maidens 2, and I'm hanging around the front. Just scratch that. Got any more of that Winter Maidens 2? Like,
the second book comes out in November this year, so you don't have to wait too long.
I'm going to have to pause a bit and then rush into it, and then so I'm ready for November. That's cool.
I'm planning 6 months as the schedule, so every 6 months there'll be a new one of these books.
So you're pumping the keyboard now for Winter's Maiden 2? That's
I've written that.
You've done
I'm
that.
currently writing Winter's Mother 2.
Winter's Mother 2. Oh damn! So you've front.
That's
good. That's good. I like that. That's good. We can all relax knowing that it's on its way.
Just a warning though. Book 2.5, Winter's Thrall, real dark.
It goes dark.
It goes real dark. And real sexy. So not necessarily going to appeal to everyone who's enjoying this book. No. So that's why it comes with trigger warnings, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. But it's probably my favourite so far.
Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Okay, well that's pretty much it, folks. So I'm going to get Laelia now to do the plug section. So how can everyone get in contact with you or get on top of the emailing list, and also be a part of the online group for the book?
Yeah, okay, so I'm on most common social media platforms except TikTok. I'm not going to waste my time there, sorry guys. But
I can't work TikTok. I'm an old man. Oh my god.
So seriously, just Google Starla or Laelia Starla, and you'll find me all over Google. And I've got Facebook page, Facebook group, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on YouTube, even Spotify. I love to put music playlists in with my books too. Yes, I was going to say, check out Spotify.
What's the playlist on Spotify? I saw that and I wanted to look it up so I could listen to the music while reading. How can they go about doing that on Spotify? Yeah, so you can look me up on Spotify again as Starla. Oh, okay. So
and if you get my ebooks, I actually put hyperlinks in my ebooks to each of the playlists.
No, that's cool. That I like that. There was another book I was reading recently, and they did the same thing. In the background, it's like all the music. Yeah. When I write, I do the same thing. I've got music playing in the background that inspires that thing, and I thought that was a really great touch, to put that in. So definitely check out the Spotify. And I'll be sharing my Spotify playlist on my social media soon as well. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's wonderful. So cool. There you have it, folks. So I hope you enjoyed the interview. Go out and get yourself a copy. And so I hope you enjoyed Zombie Bite for this episode. I'm your host, Zombie Joe. Laelia Starla, thank you for joining me in the crypt. I will give you a Sedgwood limb to chuck while you run for the gates. And I'm sure I'll be fine. Nothing a little bit of magic won't fix. Yeah, that's it. You're just completely H-Potter their ass. No worries. So thank you very much. Stay scary, and I'll see you in the crypt.